Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
It's been 1 week since a record rainstorm hit San Diego County, and tonight many people still can't go home. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. In National City, nearly 100 families were forced out of their apartments when they flooded. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson spoke with a mother who says her future is uncertain.
Everything was destroyed. We have nothing.
26-year-old Jocelyn Lopez leans on crutches. She says she fractured her ankle trying to escape when the water suddenly filled her Highland Avenue apartment. Today, a red city notice is taped to the door. It reads, "Danger, unsafe, unlawful to occupy." The landlord sent some residents a letter terminating their lease. Mud marks a line on the walls 1.5 feet high. Furniture, clothes, and baby shower decorations sit waterlogged.
If you don't come from much like us, then you would understand how hard the situation is with very little stuff that we had, but very valuable to us.
She sent 4 of the children in her care to live with family. She and her 4-month-old are staying with her mother-in-law in an apartment on the 2nd floor. Lopez says many of the tenants have lived here for more than a decade. They can't afford to return if the landlord remodels and hikes the rent.
It's like tearing up the family that we have built here for many, many, many years.
Legal Aid Society of San Diego's Gil Vera says landlords are responsible to provide safe housing until repairs are done. They can only terminate the lease after the eviction has gone through the court, he says, unless the unit is fully destroyed. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Even while cleanup efforts continue from the last storm we experienced, preparations are underway for the incoming storm we will see on Thursday. City crews say they've picked up more than 1,400 tons of trash and debris, making necessary repairs to infrastructure. County and city teams will be making damage assessments over the next 3 days to determine potential state and federal disaster assistance. To prepare for more rain in the forecast, sandbags are being made available at sites across the county, and we have those locations on our website, kpbs.org/weather.
Quiet night coming up under a clear sky. Temperatures bottoming out into the upper 40s. And we do have some nice days coming up over the course of the next couple, but then some big league changes yet again as we head our way toward late week. We'll talk about precipitation amounts and as well as temperatures. So it's going to be changing up too. All those details coming up in just a little bit.
A possible border deal could head to the Senate floor in the coming days, but the question remains whether Republicans are going to listen to former President Trump, who has tried to tank the compromise. Juliet Benbrook has more on how those talks are impacting the campaign trail.
In a rare statement on the congressional negotiations, President Joe Biden says the bipartisan deal the Senate is working on is both tough and fair. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat from Connecticut, is one of the key negotiators.
I am hopeful that we will still have enough Republicans in the Senate who want to fix the problem at the border rather than just do Donald Trump's bidding.
While Republicans have long pushed for strengthening border security, the party's presidential frontrunner, Donald Trump, is asking them to reject the immigration compromise.
A bad bill is, I'd rather have no bill than a bad bill.
The former president is eyeing the general election and has been campaigning against Biden's handling of the border.
A lot of the senators are trying to say respectfully they're blaming it on me. I said, that's okay, please blame it on me, please.
Meanwhile, Trump's presidential primary opponent, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, says Congress needs to take action as soon as possible.
Donald Trump, the last thing he needs to do is tell them to wait to pass a border deal until the election. We can't wait one more day.
Components of the deal include a new authority that allows the president to shut down the border between ports of entry when unlawful crossings reach high levels, reforming the asylum system to resolve cases in a shorter time frame, and expediting work permits. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Governor Newsom is calling on Congress to act on the ongoing crisis in the Tijuana River Valley now. The governor is urging Congress to approve the $310 million included in President Biden's emergency supplemental appropriations bill. The Newsom administration says it's invested over $32 million in state funding to help clean up pollution in the area. Some potentially good news for people living near the train tracks downtown. The city says it's one step closer to reinstating the quiet zone in the area. Without the designation, trains are required to sound their horns when approaching highway rail grade crossings. The city says as of Friday, it's installed the required crossing signs and submitted documentation to the FAA for review. Graduate student researchers working for the University of California will finally get the pay raise promised in a contract agreement reached more than a year ago. The union members went on strike with other academic workers in 2022. The contract agreement set a minimum amount of paid hours for graduate researchers, but the university delayed implementing the requirement. The UC has now said it will begin the new pay practice at the start of the spring quarter in March.
The university has been consistently so stubborn and has dragged this out as long as it possibly could. We still ultimately were able to enforce our contract and get what we want. So this was really our first major win we've gotten.
The union is still in a dispute with the UC over the exclusion of certain workers who should have been covered by the new contract. KPBS has reached out to the UC for comment, and we are waiting for a reply. Young people across the country are facing a mental health crisis. KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us about 2 new free smartphone apps to help them manage their mental health.
California's Department of Healthcare Services created the mental health apps for kids, teens, and young adults.
It's really an opportunity to meet kids where they are in a safe space where they actually feel comfortable.
On their phones. It's part of California Governor Gavin Newsom's master plan for kids' mental health. A portion of that $4.6 billion state investment was used to create the free virtual platform, made up of 2 app-based programs, Bright Life Kids for children up to 12 years old and Saluna for 13 to 25-year-olds.
Each of them offers free professional coaching with a live coach through in-app chat or video visits. We also offer telephone coaching in all Medi-Cal threshold languages in the state of California.
CDC data shows a nationwide increase of anxiety, depression, suicide, and self-harm among youth over the last decade. Autumn Boylan is a deputy director with the California Department of Health Services and says this platform is the state's strategy to address mounting issues facing California's youth.
About 1/3 of California adolescents express that they've experienced serious psychological distress between 2019 and 2021. And during that same time period, there was a 20% increase in adolescent suicides.
And to increase access to mental health resources for the over 13 million eligible youth.
There is a shortage of behavioral health providers in the state of California and nationally as well. And this really gives an opportunity for us to reach families by expanding the types of providers that are able to provide support across the delivery system.
San Diego Psychological Association president and psychologist Deborah Halliday, who is not directly involved with the project, says she thinks the platform will contribute to prevention.
How do we talk to people before it gets so bad? Let people feel that there's a supportive community that's out there to help them.
The apps took about 2 years to create and included input from over 300 youth in the development process. The state says both are secure, confidential, and all activity is supervised by licensed clinical practitioners. While both of the apps have direct access to crisis services, Halliday appreciates that they aren't just for crisis intervention. They can be used for everyday challenges.
There's a soft line. Do you just need to talk to somebody? Maybe you don't have suicidal thoughts, but you really are feeling alone. There's a button you can push and bam, you're talking to somebody. If you are having suicidal thoughts, you don't just have to go to the emergency room. You can talk to somebody. That's a whole nother line. So it's levels of acuity are being addressed.
Halliday offers this advice for parents.
When you're paying attention to your children, you'll be able to see signs. Are they withdrawing? Are they more teary-eyed? Are they no longer playing with the friends they used to? Are they ignoring attempts to come down for dinner? Are they completely addicted to their social media?
Both the Bright Life Kids and Saluma apps are available to download on any smartphone. For more information about the platform, go to calhope.org. Melissa May, KPBS News.
If you or someone you know are having thoughts of suicide, you can call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Biden vows to respond to a deadly drone attack on a U.S. base in Jordan. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Today marks the official start to tax season. There are some significant changes this year that could mean more money in your wallet. Jen Sullivan explains.
You may be receiving your W-2 form soon if you haven't already. And while the tax deadline is still a few months away, tax experts recommend filing your taxes early.
Get your taxes in.
As you begin to fill out your 2023 taxes, you may notice some differences. The IRS made several changes to the income tax brackets to help adjust for inflation.
They adjust certain tax benefits every year, but for tax year 2023 is the most they've been adjusted up in decades.
This means you may end up with a bigger refund. Here's why. In 2022, a person filing as single, earning between $41,766 to $89,075, paid 22% of their income to the IRS. In 2023, though, that tax bracket jumped to $44,726 to $95,375. That's a 7% change. Other changes? The amount of money you can claim in energy credits.
We always had the electric vehicle credit for up to $7,500, but there's also a credit for used electric vehicles now up to $4,000.
If you've made energy efficient improvements to your home, like installing new windows, you can also claim up to $1,200 in credits with no lifetime limits instead of $500, which is what it was previously. There's also changes in tax credits for families.
If you're a family with 3 kids, it's $7,430.
So how much money can you expect to receive back? Last year, the IRS says the average refund was $3,039. But with the tax bracket changes, you can expect more. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
A legal challenge to the state's solar power rules is now headed to California Supreme Court. A district court of appeal ruled the California Public Utilities Commission followed its mandate to review and revise the rules for net energy metering. Those rules adopted last year slash the value of electricity produced by rooftop solar. 3 environmental groups, including the San Diego-based Protect Our Communities Foundation, argue the CPUC decision doesn't protect the growth of solar. Fund Solar is in disadvantaged communities and doesn't fully account for rooftop solar benefits. A San Diego researcher is being honored by the National Academy of Sciences for extraordinary scientific achievements. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says Kim Prather does sometimes controversial work in atmospheric chemistry.
The UC San Diego researcher attracted millions of dollars in grant funding to help better understand how the ocean and atmosphere interact. Her research has led to construction of a massive ocean wave simulator on the Scripps Institution of Oceanography campus. But Prather's profile was elevated when she advocated for masking during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I just keep pushing ahead because I know that is helping the greater good. I mean, I know that the message often isn't what people kind of want to hear.
She also made waves pushing government officials to acknowledge that COVID transmission happened because of airborne aerosols.
This is all fixable. That's what I've said since day one. It's a fixable problem. That's been my message. Clean your air. It's so easy to filter and clean indoor air, and the world needs to do this.
Her positions on COVID transmission and willingness to speak about them publicly won her praise and some pretty mean rebukes on social media. But she never backed down. She saw the virus as the enemy.
She was an advocate for masking, and it was completely a political issue, and she got the heat for that too, but she didn't back down. And I can tell you her positions were confirmed, reconfirmed, and yet reconfirmed.
Prather is widely recognized as one of the most distinguished aerosol chemists. She is one of 20 people being honored by the National Academy of Sciences.
And National Academy of Sciences is the apex body of scholars, who opines on issues, all issues science-based.
Prather gets her award in April. In the meantime, she's leading a study measuring airborne sewage contamination in Imperial Beach. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Over the decades, something has been happening to the way kids play. The lives of younger generations have become less freewheeling, and they become more structured. And as KPBS reporter Corey Suzuki reports, some experts say kids may be losing more than we think.
Most afternoons, Dennis Lim's parents would raise the door to the garage in Oceanside and send him out to play.
The neighborhood I grew up in was great for kids. It was a cul-de-sac.
He and his friends would sit in the neighbor's yard and talk, or play baseball in the street.
My parents didn't have to really put any thought into how is Dennis going to socialize? How is he going to make new friends? How is he going to learn all these skills that we're talking about? Social skills, being physically active. They just let me go outside until it was time for dinner, and just kind of did the rest.
Now, decades later, Dennis is a parent with 2 little kids of his own. He lives at the end of another cul-de-sac, this one in a residential neighborhood of North San Diego, the perfect place for a good game of street baseball. But most days, his block is silent.
Now, you drive through any street in America, I don't care what neighborhood it is, poor, urban, suburban, whether it's a weekday, weekend, you just don't see kids outside.
Dennis isn't alone in noticing this change. Across the country, researchers who study childhood say the way that kids play has quietly transformed over time. For decades, kids like Dennis would go out and play freely, what experts call unstructured play. That's when kids are getting to choose what they want to do and exercise their creativity on their own, away from adult supervision.
Free mobility, freedom to have a part-time job.
Peter Gray is a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Boston College.
Where you are independent, where you have to take control of your life yourself because there's no adult standing right over you telling you what to do.
Fireball! Think those kids in Stranger Things, cruising around the neighborhood on their bikes, minus the monsters.
Fireball him! Cast protection.
But around the 1980s, experts say a couple big things changed. The first one was how parents viewed safety. In 1979, a 6-year-old named Eaton Patz went missing in New York. That was followed by several other high-profile kidnappings of young kids. Child abduction was a rare crime. It still is. But the cases made big news, causing a national uproar. Everyone from dairy companies to picture book characters started warning that it was dangerous for kids to be alone.
The messages began to be, if you're not watching your kids, or you don't know where they are, or if there's not some other responsible adult watching them, then you are a negligent parent.
That was the first big change. The second came in 1983, when the Department of Education under Ronald Reagan warned that American schools weren't keeping up with other countries. Within decades, Congress passed the No Child Left Behind Act, a sweeping law that required schools and teachers to prove success in academic growth using standardized test scores.
Teachers now are being evaluated based on the test scores. So the nature of school changed very dramatically.
Schools started to take more time. Teachers gave out more homework, school years got longer, kindergartners had less time to play in class. Gray and others argue that these 2 shifts may be one cause of the youth mental health crisis, adding to the uncertainty, anxiety, and hopelessness that many young people experience today.
We're depriving them of those opportunities. They're not learning how to take that kind of responsibility. They're not developing the sense that they can solve their own problems, that they can deal with the bumps in the road of life as they occur.
Play is just one of many factors affecting kids' mental health. But Gray says it is one area where parents can do something. He has a number of recommendations, including teaching kids how to be safe during independent activities. Dennis Lim, who lives on that quiet cul-de-sac, and his kids have been spending a lot of time at the park. He thinks that's one of his kids' best options to spend time exploring and hanging out with others.
You know, you don't need like a grand park for like every neighborhood, but you know, like a little pocket park, someplace where there's like a real chance for like some real social interaction, some communal space. That could go a long ways for that.
But Lim also points out that there's one other place where kids are getting some of these benefits. During recess at school. And in California, changes to recess time are coming soon. Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
Now we have some nice weather with the cards over the course of the next couple of days. But after Wednesday, we look off to our north and west. Another vigorous round of energy coming in with moisture. This will bring about another round of steady, heavy rain. And this will also start to knock those temperatures down as the cooler air begins to settle in. But again, quiet for tonight. Clear skies around Oceanside, down to 44. A little cool there. Remote at 42, Chula Vista 48, and 46 as we work our way out to the interior toward Borrego Springs. Look at future satellite and radar. Absolutely nothing here in terms of cloud cover going on. Little offshore flow activity. You can see some of the wet weather here off toward the north of San Francisco, but for the most part, we're talking about the Pacific Northwest here, at least in the short term. Some of that rain can trickle down, south toward Eureka as we work our way toward a Tuesday afternoon. But we are high and dry, and we remain on the warm side as we work our way through the day. I mean, 70 at Oceanside. Beautiful day, lots of sun. Enjoy it. Ramona, mid-70s will match the mark in Borrego Springs, and even Mount Laguna tops off at 49. So nice weather indeed. But come Thursday, that all changes, as we're going to see a couple of inches of rain make its way back in our direction for the area. Highest amounts of rain here into northern, again, parts of the state. But inch or two of rain, again, significant, especially considering what we've recently seen. And you can see it here in the coast 5-day outlook. Again, heavy rain, along with that some wind and cooler on Thursday. Interior Valley, similar situation. Some of that wet weather can linger right into Friday. By the weekend, though, the sunshine is making a return. Over the mountainous terrain, we will see a switch over to snow again as we go from Thursday night into Friday, and that can create some travel impacts. And then as we talk about the deserts, here too, we're going to see some rain and also some wind along with some cooler air later on this week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Povick.
In only its first year, the Grossmont Community College Polo Club is on its way to a winning season. It's a small team of friends who met in high school and share a love of horses and the game. KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us they hope to share a college championship too.
Polo is a team sport that begins with trust and respect, whether you're a player with 2 legs or 4. These Grossmont Community College students are paired with horses they either own, rent, or borrow in order to compete in a sport that is now alive and well in East County, here at the Lakeside Polo Club.
We are the Grossmont College Polo team. That is us, yeah.
21-year-old Zoe Newton has been swinging a polo mallet since she was in middle school. But last fall, she and her high school friends decided it was time to get competitive on a collegiate polo field.
It is a very fun, competitive team sport that also involves like love of animals, which most team sports don't involve the love of animals and horses and things.
Grossmont College has a team of 3 men and 3 women. In this game last October, the men defeated Stanford and went on to defeat Cal Poly and UC Santa Barbara. They are now undefeated, and Christian Montanou is one of them.
Our first ever year as a college team, and we're already out here beating top tier teams. It feels pretty good.
if practice makes perfect, these young polo players have to find a way to pay for that perfection because of where it has led them. The women's team has a record 3-1 and is headed to California regionals later this spring. The men are qualified for nationals to be held at the University of Virginia.
We're all college students trying to work our way through paying for this super fun, but not necessarily the cheapest sport. Anytime you get into like a collegiate sport, I don't think it's cheap.
So as they gallop to success, the Grossmont team is also fundraising for their future. The women will play an exhibition match in Lakeside this Friday against UC Davis, while the men play a team of local players and hopefully win over some new fans too.
There is this sport available. It's like you don't have to necessarily know how to play it. You can come and enjoy it. It's a great community. There's a lot of people that are just horse enthusiasts.
I grew up with horses, so it's pretty special to me to play a sport on a horse that I love a lot.
And love wins every time. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition is covering the feud over border policy in Texas and how the state is blocking federal agents from working in certain areas. And KPBS Midday Edition will have an interview with the new chancellor for San Diego's community colleges. And that airs at noon on KPBS FM. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Previs Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.